Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Green Dog Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Pearl. Alongside me is your mom's favorite little leaguer, the GDP guru, Hunter Malone. Hunter, how are we?
Scared. There's cooties in the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know how to act. There's a real life gamer girl. What do I do?
Does The Sims count as a game?
And for those watching on YouTube, as you can see, we have a third person on the show as of right now. Me and Hunter, unfortunately, lost a bet to my girlfriend, Kara, who's a diehard Philly fan. And I bet that LeBron was not going to go to Philadelphia. And LeBron went to Philadelphia, and therefore she gets a couple questions about LeBron, one college football take, and then it'll be the boys the way everybody wants it to be. Now, Kara, the floor is yours. Talk to us a little bit about what does LeBron mean to Philadelphia?
Just, first of all, I am honored to be on the GDP. Yeah. I have been waiting for this day for years. What does LeBron mean to Philly? It feels nice to be chosen. I understand what the pick-me's are on about now. And, the city's happy to have him. The city of brotherly love. He knows what's up. He knows that Philadelphia is up. We're the greatest city on earth. I've been saying that. Don't look at me like that, Hunter. Don't look at me like that. Philadelphia, greatest city on earth. And I hope he gets the welcome that he deserves.
Now, Kara, there's reports that LeBron won't even live in the city of Philadelphia. He will live in New York City and fly in via helicopter. Do you anticipate that being a detriment to team camaraderie when LeBron doesn't want to go out on, Broad Street?
I mean,
on Sansom Street.
He's kind of unk. Why would he go out? He's got grown kids and...
But he's got the La Hennessy.
His hangovers must be insane. You think he wants to go out on Broad Street? He can't hang. Not like Jason Kelce can. Though, that's something I would pay to see, is Jason Kelce and LeBron getting after it at the Jersey Shore. That would be it right there. Ooh, I know he's going to live in New York, but what if he lived in Jersey? That would be it right there.
I have a question. Kara, with LeBron now being in Philadelphia, what does this mean for LeBron's legacy?
I'll be honest, it might tank his legacy. Okay, I'm going to be honest here. Did I expect LeBron to go to Philly? No, I'm stoked he's coming here. I am. But the ring-chasing allegations are not wrong. I'll say that. Because...
But here's the thing, though. In order to ring chase with a team, that team would have to have won a championship recently.
Well...
Hunter, correct me if I'm wrong. Has Joel Embiid won a championship?
Did he win one in Kansas?
No. He played 12 games.
Listen,
I think it was like when he was 8, he won like the YMCA league. Maybe. But to my knowledge, no. He hasn't won anything.
Listen, you guys are preaching to the choir. The 76ers are ass. That is not anything new. They haven't won anything, but we did just get Jaylen Brown, and that is huge. Truthfully, yes, I'm glad LeBron is coming to Philly. I'm way more excited that Jaylen Brown is coming to Philly. I think that, when I found out that news, I was ecstatic. That is such a great trade. I was never really a fan of Paul George. He's unk and really bad contract. I'm glad we're getting rid of that. So, yeah.
Question, Hunter. In basketball, and Kara, let me know. There's only one ball, right?
Jaylen Brown has a ring, yes.
But there's only one basketball.
That's not what he was asking.
Yes, there's on the
Jaylen
court
Brown
at one time. Yes. In the stadium, tons of balls. For sure.
Kara, confirm or deny that there is one basketball played during a basketball game?
Yes, there is one basketball.
Are you concerned that there is not enough basketball to go around for the rest of the Sixers?
Jacob, have you ever played basketball in your life? You need to have a team to be a good team. Duh.
Yeah.
Duh.
What, you think it's just LeBron out there?
You need a team to have a team, stupid.
Yeah, you need to have a team.
This guy.
The best team is going to win. I mean, imagine you kick it out to Maxey, and Maxey's maybe getting guarded, and he kicks it out to Jaylen
But there's only one ball, though. They all can't have 20 points a game.
I think that honestly, a big pro of having LeBron is he can teach them a lot in his stellar age. I think one of those things that he will teach them is like how to win, and they're not going to win by any of them playing selfishly. I do think that that is a serious concern, but I think a large part of their success is going to have to be not being selfish. So we'll see how they can navigate that part this season.
Hunter, any more questions about the Sixers for Kara?
There was a lot of ring chasing allegations. I heard through the crowd, some would say Kara, the Sixers fans, is also doing some ring chasing allegations. Kara, do you deny? Do you agree that there are some ring chasing allegations?
What are you insinuating here? That I was never a Sixers fan until
No,
recently?
it was a different ring chasing, but you didn't pick it up
That kind of ring chasing.
because you were bugging him.
I see.
Still are.
I mean, I have my rings. I don't know if you knew this. I'm a 3-time conference champion. So I have all the rings I could possibly want at this very moment.
Kara, give us your one college football take for the year.
College football take.
Who's winning it all?
Who's winning it all? It's not all about the U. I'll tell you that, Hunter. It's not Miami. I'll stand on that Miami will not be winning it all. You know, hot take. I know, but I'm also a fan of them, so I'm going to say it. But I would love to see Notre Dame bring it home this year.
Get her off the show.
Come on.
Kick her off. Kick her off now.
No, seriously. I think they've got great culture. They've got a weak schedule, but the nature of the college football playoff is in their favor.
No shit.
It's all about if you can peak at the right time. So we'll see how this season goes, but ultimately, you know, if they take care of business, as any team will, I think, you know, it depends on the program that takes care of business. So we'll see who that ends up being at the right time, but I am going to hope that it's Notre Dame.
And with that, this wraps up Kara's first and potentially only time on the Green Dog podcast. Thank you so much, Kara.
Only?
Now get out of our show.
Oh my gosh. I just want to say thank you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully
Okay,
next
bye.
time.
I'm
Next
removing
time we
you.
can bring
You're
Hunter's
done.
girlfriend. Yay!
She is also
done.
ring chasing.
We're done with that. Kick her out. Too much cooties. Too much. Let's get to what the people want to talk about. Enough about this LeBron stuff.
Hey, we're
Actually-
a college football podcast.
Yeah. Actually, everything we talk about is what does it mean for LeBron's legacy?
That is true. Indiana winning last year means
What does it
so
mean
much
for
to
LeBron's?
legacy? A lot.
All of it.
Like,
Right? What if
Yeah.
LeBron played tight end for Ohio State with 4 years of eligibility? You know?
well, now he's 5-5. He just has to enroll now.
Yep. Well, last week we covered the SEC during SEC Media Week. Now because of conference realignment, it's a 2-day affair. Kind of sweet for SEC people because they get 2 days in Tampa. That's pretty sweet. And I think this one, Big Ten, is in Indianapolis, I believe.
Mhm.
No, Chicago. They're in Chicago.
yeah.
Excuse me. And they're in Chicago. So we're diving into Big Ten conference this week. Now, we're not going to lie to you. Probably 4 or 5 teams will not get covered in this preview because
Very
they
good.
don't matter.
At all.
Don't matter.
Sorry
You know who
for
those
that.
teams are. One of them has a new stadium, so we may talk about how sweet that new stadium is. But the other ones, no. So we're just
don't
going to talk
matter.
about pretty much the heavy hitters and maybe some frisky teams. But the Big Ten has won the last 3 national titles in college football with Michigan, Ohio State, and now Indiana taking it last season. Mendoza and company with Signetti. Unbelievable comeback in terms of a program reaching the mountaintop in a 3-year span, kind of showing you in a perfect world what NIL and a really good coach can do for your program. Now, the Big Ten is very, very top heavy. You have the 3 big dogs in a tier, and then to me, Hunter, there's a pretty big gap between the big 3 at the top and the middle of the pack of like 4-ish teams, maybe 5. Depending on how you feel about them, I think we're kind of in the same boat on what those 5 are, give or take. Maybe 6, depending on how it shakes. But let's talk about the big 3. First, we have obviously the Oregon Ducks. Dante Moore, Heisman favorite front runner, perennial number 1 overall pick, predicted by a lot of people, best quarterback in college football. Some even say leading an Oregon Ducks team that in the last couple of years has been bounced out of the CFP in uninspiring fashion, right? Last year they had a couple big wins, right? Or at least we thought they were big wins at the time. And then they go and play in these big games, and they don't show up when the moment's the brightest. This team was uber talented offensively and even more uber talented defensively in the secondary. Obviously, we're talking about like Dylan Thieneman, Kenyon Sadiq, so on and so forth. They they brought back all 4 defensive linemen, right? So that is a massive, massive get for them. Dan Lanning is going into his 5th year, 48-8, right? They attacked the transfer portal hard. They're bringing back a ton of talent. Jamari Johnson, DeCorian Moore, Jeremiah McClannon. O-line brings back 2 studs. We talked about the D-line. They're bringing 2 really good safeties, Coy Perch from Minnesota and Carl Williams, a 4th from Baylor, also another traitor. But, Hunter, I have 3 questions on here, but I think the biggest question is, can Oregon shake the monkey off the back, per se? They are the projected number 1 team in the country or number 2 team in the country, depending on who you talk to. I think a lot of people have Texas. Some people have Oregon. Depends on who you talk to. Depends on your analyst. Number 1 in the Big Ten. Predicted favorite to win the Big Ten. Going to be right there in the CFP hunt. Talk to me about how you're feeling this team is looking and feeling going into this year. Because to me, the biggest question mark is like, is this the year Oregon becomes a first-time national champion in football?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have the same kind of doubts. Mine is, if they don't win the Natty or even the Big Ten, it'll be a huge issue, especially with Dan Lanning, like you said, being in his 5th year. I think there's an even bigger hiccup in, they're also replacing both coordinators. That's not an easy thing to overcome. Now, you mentioned this roster is absolutely stacked and loaded, but when you are bringing in coordinators who are bringing in their own system and style, how quickly can everyone develop? And lucky for them, the schedule, I think they have about 3 or 4 manageable games, if not cupcakes or layups, depending on how you want to call them. They've got an extra month to kind of get it going. They don't have to be firing off on all cylinders week 1. They probably have the 2nd best roster in all of college football. Nike money is green. Everybody loves it. The O-line is a huge question mark for them. Are you going to be able to protect Dante Moore? Are you going to be able to get the push that you need in order to establish the run game? I think Oregon can do it. I think they're set up and built. This is the time to go. And like you mentioned with Coy, I love the secondary of this defense. The front 4. You might have 3 defensive linemen that are going to get drafted in this year's NFL draft in the top 50. There's some teams and a lot of teams that don't even have 3 players in the top 50. And for you to have it in one position group really just shows how difficult other teams are going to have to deal with them on the defensive side. Can the offensive side step up and take the extra notch? And I think they do it. I think they get it. I think they make it back to the CFP. And at that point, whoever's the hottest and whoever's the healthiest is going to win it.
Yeah, I wrote on here, what is the coordinator transition? Obviously, they called up Drew Meveringer from being the tight ends coach. He's now the OC. They bring in Chris Hampton as well. And Will Stein's offense was really good. And from reports that I've read, Meveringer is saying that it's probably not going to change a whole lot. It's going to be very similar to what it has been, and different things like that. And to me, I don't mind that, but I think also you don't want to change it too much for Dante Moore, who last year had 3,500 plus yards passing, 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But a good chunk of those interceptions came in the latter part of the year in these high pressure games, right? Talking about, that the 2 games against Indiana, which they ended up losing, really gave them a lot of struggles against that level of defense. Dan Lanning's job security is pretty locked in if you're Oregon. Like, he's the best coach statistically that you've had. Like, I think he's currently like outpacing Cristobal in terms of like win-loss percentage because he's 48-8. So I think obviously Cristobal was there for a lot longer, but I think pacing wise, like they're very similar. Cristobal had a couple down years at Oregon, but nothing crazy. Oregon ran that Pac-12 for the most part.
He had a slight rebuild to do, especially with the transition from Chip Kelly's style to his style. It's drastically different. One's much more up-tempo, whereas the other one's more ground and pound, get in your face. So I think it was more of a stylistic difference, and getting his pieces to in there is why there's a difference. But the fact that Oregon hasn't had a drop-off at all and really a rebuild year is insane, and credit to both coaches.
I was listening to Andy and Ari from On 3, and they were very big on the, like, this is the year Oregon's been building towards. Like, have they, like, in their mind, they were like, they've been ahead of schedule. But now, like, they brought the young guys. They got another year of Dante Moore. Some of these guys are developed. They had the NIL pool, and they went after guys. And they have it all right there. And we were talking when we were making our quarterback ranking, where are we going to put Dylan Raiola? The backup quarterback position is probably the best quarterback room in the country with Dylan Raiola back there. So I think for Oregon, the world is really like your oyster. If you're an Oregon fan, you have a lot to look forward to. But the schedule, you got 3 pretty big tests on your schedule, right? So like based on the schedule here, I'm going to my magazine here. The schedule goes Boise State at Oklahoma State. Nuts. Oregon's going to OSU. That'll be a fun game to watch, though. Drew Mestamaker and company. What a time that will be. Portland State at USC, UCLA, Nebraska at Illinois, Northwestern at Ohio State, Michigan at Michigan State, and Washington. At USC and at Ohio State are going to be daunting road tests for them, more so them going to Ohio State. But then you get the 2 back-to-back of Michigan and Ohio State. That's not saying Michigan's going to be, I think Oregon's way better than Michigan, but you got to admit that's a tough 2-game stretch to go through, are those 2 teams back-to-back. So can't really get, let up off the gas a little bit here with that. Anything else?
No, I think you hit it on the head with the schedule. The way I kind of see the Oregon thing is they play Northwestern before Ohio State. It's almost like a mini bye in a way. Northwestern's not going to be competitive enough to keep up with you. Whereas I believe Ohio State plays Indiana that week. So really, Ohio State has only just the week preparation, whereas Oregon gets an extra little bit of preparation just because who they play. And then obviously at USC, you have pretty much all off season to prep for that. Oklahoma State will put up points offensively, but defensively, they're just not going to be able to keep up. So you pretty much have a month to prep for USC, and then trying to find where that bye is going to be before UCLA. So I like the way their schedule is structured. Yes, there's difficult opponents on there, but it gives you breaks. It gives you breathers, as so they have more of a favorable schedule when it comes to the Big Ten size, as opposed to who's it? I think Wisconsin's got the hardest schedule. If I'm not mistaken, they have an absolute gauntlet. So lucky draw here pairs up with exactly what they've been building for. It really is Oregon's to lose on paper.
Let's jump into the projected number 2 team. For me, they're my conference winner, but it's the Ohio State Buckeyes. Julian Sayin comes back for another year. We obviously know about Jeremiah Smith. Ryan Day is in his 8th season at the helm, 82-12. New offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. Really interested to see what he's going to do in college because he sucked in the NFL. Sucked in the NFL as an OC. But for what this Ohio State offense may want to do, maybe he's the right fit. from what my notes were, maybe you can tell me, Hunter, with a little bit more research, that I didn't have a ton of major transfers in for Ohio State. That, maybe I'm missing some from my research, but they have a ton of people returning. Bo Jackson, Julian saying 3,600 plus yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Bo Jackson had 1,000 yards. I know, was it Turbo Richards is also on the team, right? Yep. He's also very good as well. Jeremiah Smith, we know what he does. Absolute dog. Edric Houston's on the D-line. Peyton Pierce. My biggest question is the defense lost a ton of talent. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs, to name a few. Carnell Tate is gone. Max Clare is gone. You're losing this plethora of talent. Now, you're Ohio State. You can replenish this with ease, right? But the question is, how fast does that get up to speed with Matt Patricia's defense and Arthur Smith's offensive style? So I'm kind of looking for that. And I think you and I, we were talking last night, and we were like, what do we like about Julian Sayin? Like, we know he's good, but what is it? What's going on here? And I compared him to J.J. McCarthy a little bit, of like, he had such an embarrassment of riches and talent on that team that it's like, just don't mess it up. And you're projected super high, right? Obviously, we saw towards the end of last season, Sayin was incredibly frantic in the pocket with pressure. The offensive line did not hold in these bigger games. Mainly the Indiana game comes to mind, and the Miami game gave them a ton of fits in those instances as well. Talk to me. Like, where are you seeing this Ohio State team? Do you feel like Indiana should be ahead of them? Do you feel like Sayin's getting too much love? Do you feel like the defense can't recover? What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try and answer all of those. For me, I have Indiana being the winner of not only the conference, but maybe the national championship. I mean, it top dog until you knock them off. I'm not willing to fully commit on that, but I do have Indiana winning the Big Ten, upsetting Oregon, both teams being undefeated. With Ohio State in the transfer portal, they definitely plugged in a lot of pieces. If they couldn't do it in the high school ranks, they did it in the portal. I feel like Ohio State did it the right way. They went and got and signed Chris Henry, a big wide receiver. He's going to start to pair up with Ennis and then obviously Jeremiah Smith. What I really liked is defensively, they went into the transfer portal. They said, look, we can go young on offense because we have talent. We can, but I can't start a freshman at safety. So they went ahead and got Terry Moore over at a Duke, coming out of a Manny Diaz-style defense. That's a great grab. You go ahead and get a defensive lineman, James Smith, coming from Alabama. You got Christian Allegro, who is, I think, the leading tackler for Wisconsin, an insane defense last year. You go ahead and grab him. I mean, these are big grabs to get. You got Rashaw. You got an edge rusher out of Alabama. Earl Little Jr., you go ahead and get him from Florida State. They got good pieces. You went and got a tight end out of Northwestern. That was to add in there. Dominic Kelly coming over from Georgia. You've got good pieces that come in here. I really like Devin McKeon from UTSA. Jacoby Jackson, help with the running back room. I felt like they did a really good job filling in pieces that they needed, especially with the departure of, obviously, I'm blanking on his name, the wide receivers coach, going to USF.
Brian Hartline.
Yes, I thought that there would be a little more turnover when it came to that wide receiver room, but everyone stayed at Ohio State. They didn't follow Brian Hartline. I thought maybe some of the younger guys might, but it really wasn't much. Handful of people, but I mean, they were able to keep everyone. To answer your question on Julian Sayin, I have my notes here. They're in cursive so nobody can steal them. Also because it looks way prettier. Pros of Julian Sayin, I spent the last 2 days watching every game from last season. Pros is he is very good at rolling right. He's very confident in making that throw on the right side. Now, for me, and this is something I talked to Evan about, I played baseball my whole life. I played shortstop. I'm very comfortable rolling left and throwing that way. For me, that's a natural movement because I've practiced it so much. The con with Julian Sane is if you've only been a quarterback and not a multi-sport guy, somebody who has to work on going left, going left, going left, it's very awkward and unnatural, and it looks very unnatural and awkward for Julian Sane. If he has to step up in the pocket, he does that great. He climbs the pocket very well. If you have to get him to go left and turn his shoulders, he is like he's the most uncoordinated person out there. Every throw errant, not on the not even close to chest, arms, like errant throws. If you get pressure on him, he gets frantic. Now, anything that's a quick, short, one read, bang, 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 he's very good about that, and he loves the deep play action shots. If it's there, he's throwing that thing, and he throws a pretty ball, especially with confidence. Bad side is he's throwing that PA shot no matter if it's open or not. We saw quite a few times he's thrown it up into double coverage. Now, granted, yes, when I have a Jeremiah Smith who's 6'5", and we're playing Grambling and he's triple covered in the end zone, why not throw it up? Like, let's get him a highlight, dude. Like, he's going to get the ball. We saw quite a few of those shots, and I think he has a tendency to lock onto a receiver. It almost felt like he had to give certain guys the ball because they hadn't touched the ball in about 7 snaps. He would sit there and stare down Jeremiah Smith like, all right, I got to get you the ball. And not open on this curl. Well, you're getting it regardless, just so I can say, we threw it to you. It felt very predetermined at the line or even in the huddle, instead of just, all right, whoever's open's getting the ball. Now, notes for coaches on him. Dude, open up the playbook. Let him progress and grow. I felt like everything was too short, too calculated. So when you face an elite defense that has the speed, has the strength, look at Miami last year. We're big, we're strong, we're fast, we're tough, we're mean, we're nasty. I do not fear you. Like, I'm going to get up, check you at the line, and if I come in with 6, what are you going to do? I'm playing inside leverage. I dare you to come inside. I'm picking that ball off. I do not fear you over the top, and they got smacked in the mouth all night long. How are you going to recover from that? Because you have to play Indiana. You have to play Oregon. And I believe they have to play Penn State again. No, Texas.
Yes.
Texas is the third big dog on there because I have them with 3 losses. And projecting ahead of time, Ryan Day's first 3-loss season as the head coach of Ohio State. I have them going 9-3, losing those 3 big games just because of the way the schedule is lined up. I think going to Texas, with the way Texas is deeper than you. They're more talented than you, and it's at Texas. It's just the way I see it. Texas feels a lot like Oregon. Oregon's primed and ready to go now. The way the schedule is situated, they have an advantage over you. Indiana, I think Indiana has a bye before they play Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's set up to be just not favorable for Ohio State. And for once, I will actually say this, Ohio State has a difficult schedule. That's not something I have ever uttered in my life. They have a difficult schedule this year. So to see them come out with 9-3, honestly, they have a better case than Texas did last year if they go 9-3 to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Ohio State schedule is certainly one to talk about here. I mean, you get Ball State at Texas, Kent State, Illinois at Iowa, Maryland at Indiana, at USC, Oregon, Northwestern at Nebraska, and then Michigan. I mean, the middle stretch of 2 road games, Indiana, USC, and Oregon. I don't have 3 losses for them. I definitely see 2. I definitely see Texas. I kind of see them not going into Indiana well, but Matt Patricia's had Oregon's number, so I kind of see him taking care of business with a home game against Oregon. But I mean, the USC game can trip him up too with Maeva and company and Lincoln Riley looking for a hungry win. Obviously, Michigan, God, we never know what we're going to get from Ohio State whenever they play Michigan. And Michigan has been terrible since they've won a national title, and they've lost to Michigan twice out of 3 years. So, that's a game you can't sleep on either. So I still think the way it'll play out, I think Ohio State will be in this Big Ten title game, and I just have a feeling with Jeremiah Smith and the company and everybody doing what they're doing, this just feels like Ohio State's not flying under the radar, but it's just like, I think they're not, no one wants to pick them because it's like Nikola Jokic, you know, they've been picked so many times to win. You want to find somebody else who want to be different. So with that, let's go to the Indiana Hoosiers. They obviously won the national title last year, first time in program history. One of the greatest college football stories ever, maybe, from a perennial disappointing football school to making the CFP 12 team in both years of its iteration to win it in Kurt Cignetti's second year. He's 27-2 at Indiana. This is a crazy thing, Hunter. In his 16 years of coaching, he is 146-37 as a head coach. Nuts. Excuse me, Turbo Richard went to Indiana, not Ohio State. So, just making a note there. But they have Mike Shanahan as OC. They have Bryant Hayes as the DC, bringing back a lot of talent as well, but they lost a lot of talent, right? You lose Mendoza, and you lose Roman Hemby, right? And you lose, I'm blanking on the wide receiver, Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt. Like, you lose both those guys. You lose an incredible, like, some dudes on the defense, like, I think Aiden Fisher's gone and D'Angelo Pons. So this is the first time Indiana has to, like, kind of reload at a championship caliber level. Because here's the thing, once you've reached the mountaintop, Indiana fans probably aren't, like, thinking like Alabama fans quite yet, but it's like they want more of it. They sipped the Kool-Aid, they won championships now. That's like nothing less, right? Obviously, they're going to love you forever for winning a national title, but the more success you build, the more people want it. They want the success to continue. So, they bring in Josh Hoover, Mr. Furry himself from TCU. Bring him in. Last year, he was, I believe, from what I am reading, he was 9th in the nation last year with 29 touchdown passes. He finished number 2 in passing yards in the Big 12 in his last 2 seasons. I think, ironically, last year behind Sawyer Robertson and co. He, at TCU, has been, 9-3 the last 2 years. He's a very good quarterback. And it's one of those things of like, well, if Cignetti wants him, then like he's got to be good, right? Like Cignetti didn't go after a Sam Levitt type of quarterback. You know what I'm saying? He went after his guy that he knows he can execute his offense at a high level. He went after Josh Hoover. He didn't go after Sorsby, right? Obviously, good move. But like, he didn't go after Sorsby and company as well. So, Josh Hoover maybe wasn't the sexiest name in the portal, but an impactful quarterback. I mean, with the talk being Levitt and co, like, and then obviously Raiola went into the portal, and you know he's 4 or 5 in that rank. You have him higher.
I loved Hoover coming out. I think I had Brendan Sorsby 1, and I had Hoover 2. I was not a fan of Levitt just because I thought it was disciplinary issues as to why he was kind of removed from Arizona State. Anyone who has any kind of disciplinary or conduct, I immediately drop you way down. I don't want that because that's not coachable. I think the way Hoover handles himself, 6'2", 200 pounds, big boy, knows how to run the RPO like a dude. I like it a lot. Now you put him in Indiana, and Indiana was the number 1 RPO offense. Number 2 was TCU. No doubt, this screams Indiana. Big body, little more mobile than Fernando Mendoza. I think he's got a better arm. I like the talent more. He just turns the ball over a little bit too much for my liking, but that's coachable. That's something that could easily be addressed. Hey, we're going to, why are you doing this? Let's see where your reads are. Those are things that you could teach when we're watching film. Hey, notice whenever, the way that's lined up. Learn how to do pre-stop. Put some guy in motion, help you figure out if it's man or zone. Those are things that very coachable, very teachable. And I think Josh Hoover is already one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I think the world is now going to see just how good Josh Hoover is.
Yeah, John, there's a reason Signetti wants him, and I think that is something that he's proven it. You're going to have to trust. So, but the biggest talk, obviously, that talented, vaulted defense that Signetti had. He lost, obviously, shut down corner D'Angelo Ponce. He lost the quarterback of the defense in Aiden Fisher, right? But he kind of retools, but also guys are getting, their opportunities too, right? Talking about Tyreek Tucker here, who, who was first team All Big Ten last year. That's a big piece to keep. They added, I don't know if they added, again, my notes were all over the place because for some reason I had to do a lot of things at work. But I'm talking about Elijah Hardy, right? That's another big player for them on the defense. And I really am interested because Indiana, year one, you're the cute little guy. Hey man, come! You haven't really played anybody. Come into the CFP. Get whooped by Notre Dame. We kind of knew it was going to happen. Curtis Rourke playing through injury. Hey man, it's cool. We don't expect you to be back here again because you had a very cupcake schedule, right? Year one. Year two happens, and you win the freaking national title. Mendoza's a Heisman quarterback. Signetti does what he does. And now it's year three. Now you got to reload. It's not a rebuild, it's a reload. I'm really curious to see how well they reloaded this team in terms of the defensive side. Hunter, do you have any insights to the defense? Also, before I do that, the last piece on the offense, they kept Charlie Becker, who back shoulder merchant. Big game Charlie. So, Hunter, the floor is yours for defense.
Yeah, I want to touch on one more transfer before we go to the defensive side, because offensive side, I mean, we forgot about probably one of the biggest names that's not a quarterback, Nick Marsh. Nick Marsh, 6'3", big body, 203. I mean, we lost Omar Cooper and Sirac. Well, guess what? Now we have Nick Marsh, and I think they got the wide receiver. They got a couple in the one out of Tulane.
I wrote down Shaz Preston from Tulane in my notes.
Yeah, they got him. They also added to the offensive line, getting an interior lineman from Wisconsin. I think they tooled up just fine. Tight end from Miami. He really didn't play, so you can have him. And then you add Turbo Richards to help with the running back room. I mean, the depth looks good. I'm very interested just seeing how the staff does. Like, this staff is so good that it's almost like a Nick Saban staff, where if you look into the coaching trees, like this is a hell of a staff. Been together at JMU for a while, and whenever we had who's the guy that there was one of the coaches that left last year, and he went out west, and he's coming back now. Like, bro, thought he was too good.
I don't remember who that was.
Natty. I forgot what his name was. But so he comes back to the coaching staff. You have offensive coordinator Shanahan, who is a dude. I think a lot of love gets given to Curt Cignetti, but Shanahan needs the love as well. I mean, he's put together a hell of an offense, clearly very RPO based, which isn't bad at all. It kind of a one read, let the defense figure out how they're going to attack you, and you just kind of react to it. It's how Kyrie plays basketball. It's one of the most beautiful ways you can play the game. It's just, how would you like me to cook you today? And it's that. I went deep into the quarterback room. Josh Hoover, obviously, I am a huge fan of him. In the event that he gets hurt or something happens to him, Grant Wilson is this backup. He's a former ODU starter. This dude's earned everything he's got. He's good depth. He is like a Division II guy, goes up, earns a spot there, wins it. Goes to ODU, earned his spot, won it. And now he's back home, an Indiana guy, and he's the backup. Like, he's earned everything he's got. To switch to the defensive side, I really am a big fan of the edge out of K-State, 6'6", 275. If I could pronounce his name, I would, but bro is a dog.
Chidi Obazar?
Yeah. So out of Kansas State's defense is what carried them so much. So getting a piece out of that, it's kind of like the same thing with getting a piece out of Wisconsin that we just touched upon. Iowa, anyone that's a big defensive thing, like, they help. They went and got special teams. They went and got, obviously, a punter and a kicker. Those are huge things. That cost Cignetti the first round in the playoffs, was having bad special teams. So he has now put an emphasis on special teams to make sure we've got the best guys at punter and kicker that we possibly can. And then getting Preston Zachman, the safety out of Wisconsin, like I touched upon, that's a huge grab. I mean, you are replacing dudes with dudes. Carson Williams coming from Montana State. That's going to be a really under the like table kind of thing. This will be something that you're going to be like, who's this Williams guy? Come like week 8, and he's be like, man, this nickel bag is really good. Like he's 5'11", 170, physical. Like it's a lot. Like this team is good. They've reloaded, and I think what they've done is just been quiet about it. They are able to now keep talent in state. They had 4-star quarterback Tyler Cherry. That's an Indiana guy, and Indiana dudes want to stay home. They want to go to IU. You have Maverick Giske, who's Mr. Indiana finalist. He's a walk-on. Bro is he's paying to be on the team. The most expensive jersey I've ever seen. $60,000 to have this jersey and hang out in the locker room. Like, I think the transition of Cignetti with Saban being gone, he's the new Saban. Like, you want to play for that guy because of how good he is, how much knowledge he has. And that's a huge reason why I have Indiana winning the Big Ten again. Like, until you knock them off, I'm going to put them up there.
Hunter, where do you want to go here? Penn State, Michigan, USC. Where do you want to go? I'll let you pick.
I have more notes on USC, so I'd like to go there. Michigan is going to be bashing.
Yeah, so let's go USC. Lincoln Riley goes into year 6, 35-18. Life has not been great, I would say, since Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb Williams' his final year wasn't all that great, but obviously his second year he won the Heisman. 90-28 over 9 years. Luke Ward and Gary Patterson. You remember that guy? Gary Patterson coming out of retirement, basically, and is now the defensive coordinator for the USC Trojans. Obviously, the big guy to talk about is, for some people, I thought it would be Hunter, but I guess Hunter came to a different conclusion. Some argue is the best quarterback in the Big Ten in Jaden Maeva. 3,700 yards last year, 24 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. They bring back King Miller, Tanook Hines, Jakeem Stewart, Luke Wafel, like just some of these key pieces for them. I'll let you touch upon who they brought in the transfer portal here in a second. But this is a team, to me, that their schedule really, like, there's a clear ceiling and a clear floor for USC. You know what I'm saying? Like, the ceiling is 3 losses, maybe 2 because you upset one of the big dogs of Oregon, Ohio State, or Indiana. But the floor is maybe no more than, like, 5 losses at most in case, like, craziness happens, right? So, like, I think there's a clear range of what the expectations are for this USC team, given the schedule, given the talent, given what they've done in years past. But you also got to take into account that this is a Lincoln Riley kind of make-or-break year for USC, it feels like, for him. Because my question, that I wrote down is, how short is Lincoln Riley's leash?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been to the playoffs since he left Oklahoma. He hasn't won anything. He hasn't accomplished anything, and he left Oklahoma to go to LA to do exactly that, and he really hasn't been close. You bring Caleb Williams, all your Louis luggage, and you went, 7-5?
He was close to 1 year, and Caleb Williams went into Utah and got smoked, and then they had a chance to punch their ticket in the Pac-12 title game, and guess who they lost to again? Utah, and got smoked.
You lost to a bunch of 3-stars. Congrats. Like, let's be like, look at the teams. They're all 3-stars. Now, granted, I hate recruiting websites. They don't do any camps on the West Coast. They really don't pay attention to them. Were those kids really 3-stars? Probably not, but because I don't like Lincoln Riley, you lost to a bunch of 3-stars. Now, with this team, it feels like they finally have their identity. I think you saw it clicking last year. They practically bring back the whole team. You have 15 of 22 starters. They are going to be back. The 2 running back tandem, you brought up King Miller. I love Wayman Jordan. I think Jordan takes over the running back room because that was his damn room to begin with. King Miller is just a walk-on or JUCO transfer from last year who overtook it because of injuries and poor performance, that's Wayman Jordan's room. Now, Jaden Maeva is the most efficient quarterback if you look at EPA per dropback, and it's not even close. I brought up advanced analytics to you. We had our debate on back and forth about it. I don't love advanced analytics as much, so that's why I was like, I'm gonna push it forward, see how I like my list. And I looked at it and it was just like, I don't feel comfortable with this list. So it had to get redone. It was taken into a factor, but Jaden Maeva needs to do just a little bit more for me in order to bring him up there. Now, he is the most Lincoln Riley type quarterback he's had since Caleb Williams. The traits are there. Multiple years in the system are there. This is the peak that USC has been looking for. Can Lincoln Riley get the Trojans to the playoffs for the first time? I think my answer is no. Not without an expanded playoff of being 24 teams for your 8-4 to get in there. And if they are going to make the playoffs, you absolutely cannot turn the ball over in critical moments. We saw the loss to Illinois due to turning the ball over late. Against Oregon, far too many turnovers. The loss to Notre Dame, your defense played out of its mind, and because of the late game turnovers, you lost that game. Those are 3 extra wins that you add to this team, and it looks a whole lot different. So if you're going to upset at Penn State, against an Ohio State, at Indiana, at USC, your rival is going to be much more difficult. You have Oregon on the schedule with 4 cupcakes beforehand. You cannot turn the ball over. You cannot be sloppy. I can't see your Big 12 defense show up. You need to be aggressive, attack, and when you get them down, don't let them up. So those are the keys for USC to be successful. It is easier said than done on paper, but with the fact that everything is backloaded, I see that as an advantage. I got a month to get my stuff together before I see Oregon. Then it's Washington, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's like a breath before you go and face Ohio State, Maryland, or Ohio State, Indiana. Breath at Maryland, at UCLA, which is just down the road.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on the schedule here. Like, I see 3 losses off rip. Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana. I don't see them, unless they play an absolute perfect game and Jeremiah Smith is not on the field, I don't see them beating Ohio State. If I don't see Dante Moore on the... Even if Dante Moore doesn't play, I think Dylan Raiola can beat you.
I was about to say, yeah. Dylan Raiola is there.
And Indiana's too talented no matter what. So, like, I see 3 losses there. I agree with you. Like, unless they're expanding the CFP, where's the path? Now, the path, if you want to flip the coin and go, Jacob, how do they get to the CFP? Probably win one of those games and you're probably like number 12, given the new rules, right? Maybe. You guys, it's a lot of like, okay, well, if SEC is going to get 3 and Big Ten's going to get 3, and then that's already 6, plus you got the ACC winner Miami and the Big 12 winner Texas Tech, and unless it's me, then it's Baylor, right? And then you have the group of 6 team. Then you're looking at Sikkim. You're looking at the group of 6 team, and right there you're down to 3 teams to try and to fit those 3 teams in. And let's just say let's just play a game here, right? Just entertain me here. That 3 SEC teams are Ole Miss, Texas, and Georgia, right? And then the 3 Big Ten teams are the ones we are anticipating: Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon. Then Tech, Miami, and group of 6, let's just go for fun, Army, right? I don't believe in that, but like first team in my head. So now you're at 9. You're at 9. And
Notre Dame's got a cupcake schedule.
Notre Dame's probably in there after getting snubbed last year, but then you're looking at 2 spots. And you're looking at the likes of like A&M, Ole Miss, right? We've talked about Alabama. LSU. Maybe a team from the ACC sneaks in there if, for like, let's say like Virginia hits all strides with Bo Purabula.
I was just about to say Virginia could be 11-2, 12-1.
Yeah. Like, what if you have these scenarios and you're going to look at an 8-3 a 9-3 USC team that hasn't gotten a big win all year. So to me, not even to mention, like, you still got to play Washington and Penn State. Like, those are not easy games. You got to go to Penn State. I think the USC game, when they go there, is the whiteout. So you got to play them at night, which have fun with that, right? And then you have Washington, which Washington's no fluke either, right? So, like, you could have 5 losses, and Lincoln Riley's the number 1 coach on the market this upcoming offseason. So
yeah, I'd have to agree with you, and I think their bye doesn't come at a good time. It's after the Penn State game to go into Wisconsin. I think if you're going to take your shot and go all out and take down one of the big dogs, it has to be Oregon in Week 5. You have San Jose State, Fresno State, Louisiana, and then Rutgers. You have 4 weeks plus all of the offseason to shoot your shot and take down Oregon. And if you do that and ride the wave, you're 10-2.
10-2 with a big against the number 1 team in the country potentially at the time. Who says no?
You could go 10-2 and not make the play or not make the conference game, and you'd be golden to slip right in.
That might be to your benefit.
That would be the old how Penn State got in every year with James Franklin.
Yeah.
Just let's go 10-2, miss the game. We get an extra bye week. We roll in, round 1, and we'll get a tune-up game against a group of 5.
Also, SMU, don't sleep on them for the ACC. We'll talk about that at some point this offseason about the ACC.
Yeah.
Let's jump to Penn State because I want to get in my Penn State stuff before you go and bash the crap out of Michigan here. My notes for Penn State is that this is basically Iowa State. That's literally everybody they brought over. They brought over 40 dudes. Most of them Iowa State guys. They brought over Rocco Becht and Carson Hansen, probably the biggest 2 components of that team that you're probably going to need to know. Kobe Howard on wide receiver, he returns for Penn State, and he wasn't great, but he ended up starting the last four out of the last 6 games, so he started to make it stride. I think Penn State, we kind of keep it almost kind of stupid simple here. Really, it's like, how would you think last year's or the Iowa State team maybe 2 years ago when Rocco Becht was fully healthy, because last year he was all over the place health-wise, where does that team fare in the Big Ten? I think I'm a little bit higher on Penn State, and it's only because I think their schedule does them a ton of favors for why I think they'll finish where they finish in the prediction. Quickly, schedule looks like Marshall at Temple, i.e. in Philadelphia, so Penn State home game. Buffalo, Wisconsin at Northwestern, USC at Michigan, Purdue at Washington, Minnesota, Rutgers at if all things go according to how some analysts see it, they could have 1 loss, and that could be USC potentially. Michigan's a 50-50 game, Washington's a 50-50 game, and USC are the 2, like, they have maybe 3 losses, maybe a 4th if they slip up somewhere else. Like, they lucked out. They missed the big 3. And luckily, I think Penn State is kind of more in the middle of this, like, USC, Washington, Michigan tier than being below it of, like, the Iowa, Illinois tier. I feel like Penn State's a little bit better. They did lose a ton of talent, obviously, from when Franklin left. But I do think the pieces they brought in and Matt Campbell basically bringing over his entire team, dudes who know the system, I feel like he's just going to hit all strides, and I also think he did a decent job in the portal. Penn State.
Yeah, I don't know if they lost too much. I felt like, if anything, they lost recruits. I don't feel like I necessarily saw a ton of transfer portal guys go. So it's almost like you didn't really lose anything.
They lost guys who were like James Franklin guys. Like, they lost Grunkenmeyer. They lost Chaz Coleman. Like, guys you knew who were going to leave when their head coach, who paid them all the money, left.
Well, Chaz Coleman didn't even leave for James Franklin. He went to Tennessee. Yeah. There's another guy that left for Tennessee. He got homesick, and I think he's trying to go back to Penn State. I forget his name off the top of my head. But not only did they bring in a ton of guys from Iowa State, they also went and snagged pieces that they needed. They went and got Keith Jones, 6'4" wide receiver out of Georgia. They went and got Chris Filippo, the safety out of West Virginia. I mean, these are really good grabs that I see. We've got James Peoples, the running back from Ohio State. they were able to get some key pieces and added in there. Obviously, a ton of talent. Chase Sewell's coming over here. I like what they're doing. I almost feel like this is an Iowa State, Penn State All-Star team, and this is their shot to do something. Rocco Beck is not getting any younger, very comfortable in the system, and he's so good. Like, Rocco Beck is so good that I'm with you. I have them going 10-2 just because I think that schedule is that easy.
Yeah. The schedule
They have the bye after Michigan to be in front of Purdue. I almost feel like you look ahead of Purdue and play for Washington. At Washington is going to be a difficult, going all the way across to the West Coast. Those are never easy. I have you beating USC because you faced nobody before them. USC has to come across over to the East Coast of Pennsylvania to play you. Anytime you see those 2 to 3 time zone changes, those teams come out a little bit flat. And I think hosting it, having the whiteout, I think that's the juice to beat them. I think I have their 2 losses being Michigan and at Washington, both on the road. Neither one of them are bad losses.
I think if we're talking maybe a tough test, Wisconsin to open the conference play, that's a good barometer for where we are going to see where, like, if they really struggle against this Wisconsin team, two trains of thought. Wisconsin, way better than we thought, or Penn State is way worse than we thought. Kind of the 2 tracks. They're not, I think there's the 2 thoughts there. But I'm super high on Penn State simply because this schedule warrants a ton from them to go capitalize, with the ceiling being potentially like 1 loss. Like, I can see only 1 loss on this schedule. And for me, I keep thinking it's Michigan, just because you got to go to the big house. So, yeah, let's go to, speaking of Michigan, let's talk about the Wolverines of Michigan. They were quite in the news this offseason. Obviously, Sharon Moore departs the team due to an inappropriate relationship with a staffer, and that went nuts.
That's frat. That's so frat.
And Michigan wasted no time in grabbing a guy I didn't think they could grab. They grabbed Kyle Whittingham away from Utah, and I was like, wow, I didn't think y'all were going to get him. I didn't think he was on the block. I didn't think anybody was going to pry that man away from Utah because he was there for so long. But Kyle Whittingham goes to Michigan. Now, Michigan is in a ton of turmoil as an athletic department, right? Athletic director is stepping down at the end of the year. Dusty May left after winning a national title to go to Dallas, right? Michigan football hasn't been great the last 2 years in terms of, I think, what their fans expect. It feels like their team was a little bit like Iowa, of just like really good defense, piss poor offense. And it was tough to watch. Game against Oklahoma last year, really fun game to watch defensively. This team is built by defense. Bryce Underwood gets a second year at the helm. He had unrealistic expectations in year 1, I think. But now he gets year 2, gets a new coordinator, gets a new coach. Excuse me, same coordinator, right? No? New coordinator.
New coordinator, offensive coordinator is Jason Beck.
Came with him from Utah, right?
Yes.
And Jason Beck's whole thing is, we saw it with Dan Pierre. He will utilize the quarterback skill set to its full extent. Use the legs, RPO, big arm, we're going to throw it. Like, you know, we remember Cam Rising and Dalton Kincaid, and I'm too far back now. He's been at 4 different schools in 4 years.
I was about to say, you're stealing my shine, and then you went too far.
Yeah, but I know, I was like, I was reading here that it's his 4th team in 4 years, and I was like, he was not there for Cam Rising. That shows you Cam Rising was in school for so long that I was like, this guy definitely had to have Cam Rising. But Dan Pierre, he'll get the guy. I'll let you speak fully more into Underwood's skill set. But I think there's a chance Underwood really takes the step forward this year. What that looks like is probably going to be different to some people. To me, the stats aren't great. 2,400 yards of passing, 11 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He had 300 yards on the ground and 6 rushing touchdowns. So obviously Michigan, a lot of their identity is the run game. From what my stat book looks like, they had 26 rushing touchdowns as a team last year between Marshall and Haynes. And I don't know if that team will do it. I think they're going to trust in Underwood's arm a little bit more and let him develop as a passer, but still utilizing the run game and ground and pound the way Whittingham has done in Utah historically. So I don't want to steal too much of your shine. I think the defense is going to do what it typically does. I'm never really worried about Michigan defense. They always find maybe some under-the-radar guys who play really good to get some big fishes. So yeah, Hunter, floor is yours. Michigan.
Mine is just blown. I just found out Taylor Tatum's a safety now. One of the top running backs recruits in 2024. He committed to Oklahoma. Mind blown that he is a safety now, because I did not see it. Bro's wicked fast, big shoulders, probably going to be a mean safety. Now, Michigan, this schedule it's a lot harder than Utah's. We'll start there. Oklahoma, Iowa's defense, Penn State, I almost said Minnesota, but I'm not. Indiana, Oregon, UCLA, at Ohio State. I mean, not a fun schedule.
Tough, man.
I didn't think I was this high on them, but I got them going 8-4. And I think the way it played out, obviously the loss to Oregon and Ohio State, I think Indiana and Oklahoma, I think I have them beating Penn State. They have a bye before Penn State. That's why I picked Penn State, or I picked them to beat Penn State. Now with Michigan, I don't know what happened, but you went down the same thought process as me. Let's look at the coordinators. And Jason Beck was the one that I circled. Now, he works extremely well with dual threat quarterbacks. Former offensive coordinator at New Mexico. That's where we saw the rise of Devin Dampier. Obviously, he came over to Utah. Devin Dampier came with, and we saw the rise of that. We also saw the emergence of Bird Ficklin. Bird, amazing runner. I think he would do great under this system. Before then, he was at UVA. And if you remember Bryce Perkins, he was also a beast. He is somebody that had no business putting up the kind of numbers that he did, but because he was under Jason Beck and the 1 year Armstrong was with Beck was by far his best year. What to expect? I would expect them to run the ball significantly more. Michigan's always been a ground and pound kind of style. Jason Beck's the same way, but he's going to add the quarterback run. Now, Bryce Underwood, I'm not the biggest fan of him. He played okay last year, but he can play pretty decent. Like he's a guy that can play. You don't get 5 stars without being extremely talented. But I kind of am with Eric Weddleman where I don't see him being a quarterback. Like if you make him like a gadget Tatum, I just don't think he has it in between the ears. The footwork is a little bit sloppy, but the athleticism is insane. If you can clean it up, I think he'll be just fine. Now, he plays very well when he's not playing Texas caliber teams. When you have teams that are that deep, the Indianas, the Ohio States, he sucks, right? He can't make those throws. But when he plays against a team that's pretty solid, he's just that much more athletic and can make things happen. Now, he can sling it, just not super accurate, and he doesn't really have the touch that I'd like to see. I have 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. 3 came against Texas later in the year. I don't really count that. So 11-6. It's not a bad turnover. They went and got depth in the transfer portal. Braden Fowler Nicolosi coming from Colorado State. That's a dude that can sling it. He's going to be a senior, older guy. Last year, let's get my master's at Michigan. I don't knock it, bro. Get your last paycheck playing football. Get you a nice degree. I think it's a smart move by him. He can sling it. Will he throw interceptions? Well, yeah, he'll throw the pick, but he ain't afraid to sling it, and he can. If Braden Fowler Nicolosi is on it, bro, he is dotting you up. If he is off, there is 5 picks. Almost like DJ Lagway last year. Things to expect. I expect Underwood to tote the rock. That's just a Jason Beck thing. He's going to show that athleticism a little bit more. I think you'll see the blocking schemes a lot better, just like you saw for Dampier and Bird Ficklin. I think you'll see that more for Underwood, and I think it'll have him grow confidence. You went out in the transfer portal. We got 5-star Jamie French, 6'1" wide receiver from Texas. Dog. I thought he would make the starting lineup last year, or the starting, 3 or 4 last year. Just didn't. They brought in a bunch of people in the portal. You got JJ Buchanan, 6'3", 225 kid from Utah. I like what they went and did on the outside. You added key pieces, going and get good pieces, especially linebackers. They needed some linebacker help in the portal. What they did was plugged in what they needed. Taylor Tatum, who I told you, former top recruit in the running back room, is now going to be a safety. Would not be surprised if they converted him back to running back. Now, they haven't announced that or anything like that, but I would not be surprised considering just how talented he is, unless they need that much help and safety. But yeah, the only real knock I have on Underwood is that he just holds the ball too long. I mean, if you look at his plus and minus in the rushing yards, he runs the ball a little bit. He's got 300 yards rushing. Isn't bad, but he's like minus 149. And it's just because we're taking too many sacks holding the ball. I think it's a mixture of not being confident in your offensive scheme, but also just being a freshman. Like, freshmen are dumb, especially first-year quarterbacks. You're dumb. It's not your fault. You don't know what you don't know. Second year, I think we'll see progress. You'll definitely see progression and growth, and I kind of anticipate the coaching staff getting the most out of them, which is what brought me to this 8-4 record, going 6-3 in conference, and probably being here in Tampa and the Outback Bowl, or whatever it's called now, ReliaQuest Bowl.
Let's go to, I guess, the fourth team in this tier, the Washington Huskies. Now, they had a pretty... It was eventful for a weird reason that Damon Williams was like, I'm going to enter the portal. He never entered the portal. Somebody was going to give him money, but he signed a 2-year deal. And in the Big Ten, he signed the Big Ten contract, which means he can't leave. And it was like he was going to get sued. It was a whole bunch of stuff. He ends up coming back to Washington. Jedd Fisch is going into his 3rd season. He's now without the best running back in Washington history, or maybe second best, and Jonah Coleman. I'm thinking of some dude. Am I thinking of...
You got to remember Washington early in the days, like 1920s, 30s, was like elite as all get out.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of a 1920s dude. I'm thinking of I think Lacey Sheshank or Seashrunk, or I don't know. I'll figure it out. He was on the Titans for a little bit. Running backs by history. Come on. Nope. Not Commanders, buddy. Nobody cares about those guys. Bishop Sankey. That's who I'm thinking of. Bishop Sankey. Seastrunk was the Baylor guy. But Bishop Sankey, forgot about that guy. But Damon Williams comes back as a starter. Last year had just over 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. You and I were talking. He likes to use his legs a lot more than most quarterbacks. He had 600 yards rushing last year. I think he's a really good quarterback for the Big Ten. I have him higher than Beck and Hoover, I think. I think he shows glimpses of really good arm talent, but the dual threat is you can't deny. To me, I'll let you talk here on Washington, but my biggest question is you lost Denzel Boston and Jonah Coleman on offense. You're going to lose pieces on defense. I don't really know where you go from here in terms of an offense, right? Because those guys were uber talented and you went 5-4 in conference last year. So don't really love that. And the schedule really doesn't do you any favors either. You get USC on the road, you get Penn State at home, you get Indiana at home, and you go to Oregon to end the year. And then you still have the likes of Iowa and Nebraska in the mix there. I am high on Washington because I do think Washington's going to be better than Nebraska. I do think they're going to be better than Iowa. Actually, no, I don't. I have Iowa in front of Washington, excuse me. So that kind of tells you where I'm sitting in terms of that. It's just, I just have so many question marks about this team defensively that, from what I'm looking at here, they're returning 3 starters on defense and 4 starters on offense. I do trust in Jedd Fisch, but at some point, something's not right. And it's either the defense isn't going to do what it needs to, or Damon Williams is going to take a massive step back in terms of what his progression has already been. for the Huskies.
Yeah, in a way, I don't fear their schedule. I like the Apple Cup off rip. We prep it, get ready to go, come out with the rival, and you come out and start with your bang, and then you kind of, I'm projecting they'll win that. Utah State, Eastern Washington, and then Minnesota. You kind of have a 3-week grace period. Obviously, Minnesota will beat you if you want to play lightly with them. But then you go at USC. That's not that deep travel game that we're worried about. You just go, an hour or two south. Iowa comes to you. You play at Purdue. Then you have a bye week for Nebraska. Nebraska would be the one that kind of worries me because you are going across country. But that bye week, the extra prep time, I'm confident that they'll get away with it. I think my concern with them would be Penn State going across the country. I think I'm putting an emphasis, and that'll be something that I'll look back on. Am I putting too much emphasis on the long travels? I think it's a factor right now. Will it be a factor later on? That'll be something that will adjust in the season. But I think having to face at Nebraska and go home and then go to Penn State where we think it's going to be a whiteout maybe, not easy. Not easy at all. I have that being a loss. Indiana going across country again, that's a loss. And then to end the season after spending the Michigan State week to prep for Indiana or Michigan State, because Pat Fitzgerald will have them all ready to roll. Then you play at Oregon. I mean, that's 3 losses in the last 4 weeks that I see. And I have them going 9-3. So I have them losing the 3. I have them beating USC because they have all that prep time for it. I think USC has has a decent matchup before then, so they can't prep as much, whereas Washington has that grace. I have them going 9-3, bye week going in front of Nebraska. That's not much of an advantage, but 6-3 in conference, 9-3 overall. Damon Williams, he's the first Big Ten quarterback with 3,000 yards passing, 500 yards rushing since JT Barrett did it in 2017. Whether that means something to you or not, I don't give a shit. I think he reminds me exactly of Kyler Murray. He is going to tote the rock, run around, and sling it. If somebody's open, he's not going to miss it. He will not miss layups. And if there's nothing there, he will create. And I think he's going to really need it, considering they lost quite a bit of talent, like you mentioned. I like getting Trey Cooley from Troy to be the running back to replace Coleman. I think they'll probably use a 2 running back tandem. They went ahead and got Miller, the wide receiver, the 6'3 wide receiver from Ohio State. He'll finally get to play now. They went and got Lamar, the running back out of Oregon. That's going to be the other part of that tandem I was talking about. And then they got Christian Moss from Kennesaw State, another 6'3", 200-pound receiver. They went and got big bodies, which I like, which means they're comfortable in the system that they have, the players that they have. They said, we need to go get an X. We need a big body. Have Miller, have Moss. One of the two compete for who's going to be that big body to go get it. And when you get tired, throw in fresh legs. The depth is solid. Do I think your wide receiver room got better? No, I think you got worse. You just aren't going to replace what Boston did. I mean, if you go and watch a highlight of Damon Williams, Boston's all over there, making plays, coming back to the ball, just making for sure if I'm not catching this thing, at least it's going to be incomplete. I think Damon Williams is going to step it up. I got to believe it under Jet Fish. I love Jet Fish as a coach. But my question for them is, can they take the big step and compete with the big dogs?
That's what I had.
I think the answer is no. I don't think you have the talent. There's nothing here for it. And here's the thing: if Damon Williams gets hurt, you're bringing in Elijah Brown. Your season's over with. Like, Elijah Brown is solid depth coming from Stanford, but that's not who I want coming in at all. In the event that happens, your season's toast, and especially if it's towards the end of the season. Do I want Elijah Brown playing? What was that? Indiana, Penn State, and Oregon? The season's over with. Another question I have is, can the personnel make the plays around him? Him being Damon Williams. I think we'll see. Time will tell, but I have Washington being 9-3.
Let's talk maybe the last team in this tier, and then we'll touch on 2 more, 2 to 3 more Big Ten teams after this team. the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, there's not a lot of talk about Iowa because we know what we're going to get every year. Hard-nosed defense, really bad offense. But the one thing you can't deny is they find these kids in a cornfield, bring them on campus, and then ship them to the NFL. Specifically at the tight end position. DJ Vaname? Sure. We'll go with that.
Don't ask me for help with that one.
Yeah, he's a guy last year who he led the team in passing with 434 yards passing. Receiving, excuse me. Not
I was
passing.
about to say, hold on, wait.
Yeah,
no, that was a different.
I mean, Gronkowski was the quarterback last year. And you do have a quarterback battle in Iowa City right now between Hank Brown, 6'4", big arm junior, and kind of a gunslinger in Jeremy Hecklinski.
So
both guys gave it a shot, man.
Helinski.
Both guys were at Iowa. Both don't have a ton of starting experience. It's really a guy has to go win it in camp. So I'm kind of excited by that there's a kind of a true QB battle going on in the Big Ten here with this happening here. They obviously led by Kamari Molden in the run game. Last year he had 800 yards on the ground. I did not realize, looking at the stats from last year, that Mark Gronkowski had 16 rushing touchdowns. Bro was a vulture.
Yeah, he was
if you had him in fantasy football for college football, which we should just like do a random league and see how it goes and like see what happens.
Just
but
join
like
random leagues and
just
dominate.
Like that dude would be a top 5 quarterback with all the rushing touchdown upside, right? I'm reading here, their number one guy on defense is Zach Lutmer, DB there. Second team all Big Ten pick last year. He's won the Team Hustle Award. This team is built through defense. They want to scrap it out. They have great special teams. They do the ugly the best. You want to get into a dogfight with them, they want to bring you into the mud. They want you in the trenches because they will bring you down to their level, unfortunately. And if you succumb to that, you're not going to win. Like, looking at last year, Oregon had a really hard time with Iowa. And that was a game, obviously, with weather and everything else going on. But, like, they brought Iowa down, Oregon down. They had USC on the ropes, right? They had Indiana on the ropes as well for a little bit as well. So this is a team that they know how to muck it up. They know how to make it tough. They have long drives, suffocating defense, great pass rush, good football. It's just a question of quarterback and can they throw the ball when it's 3rd and 8 because we know what you're going to do. And because the consistency of Iowa, and I kind of know what I'm going to get every year, I know they're going to, like, I'm looking at this schedule. They're going to play Northern Illinois, Iowa State, Northern Iowa, 3-0. Then you go to Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska. So you have 2 losses to Michigan and Ohio State. I think they go and beat Washington, right? Take care of Minnesota, take care of Wisconsin, take care of the rest of the company. Absolute ceiling is 10-2 because your 2 losses are Michigan and Ohio State. Floor, maybe 4 losses if for some reason Wisconsin's better than we anticipate and Illinois, right? I know you're kind of high on Hauser, but that's pretty freaking good. Like you just know what you're going to get with Iowa. And so like to me, that's why I have Iowa ahead of Washington. And kind of like I think in my predictions, like I have Iowa at finishing 7th in the Big Ten, behind, like in front of Washington, in front of UCLA, and in front of Illinois.
I have them going 8-4 with 5-4 in the Big Ten. I have them the same in conference with USC and Wisconsin. I'm high on Wisconsin. I like what they did with Luke Fickell. Now, we'll touch upon that later. With Iowa, I think you hit it right on the head. What to expect? Top 20 defense. Do they have 5 stars? No, they don't need it. Every year it's top 20. I wouldn't be surprised to see it bump up to top 10 just because of some of the additions that they got in the transfer portal. But I think you hit it on the head. The biggest thing in Iowa is that quarterback battle. Hank Brown, Jeremy Helinski. It's very funny because it's private school against public school. If you look back, going back to their high school days, Hank Brown coming from the private school in Nashville. But he's 6'4", 218, Auburn transfer. He's pretty good. He looks the part. Like, he's a good player. There's no knock on him. Whereas Jeremy Helinski, 5'11", 188, he's a Georgia high school product, originally a Wake Forest transfer. This kid's a baller. 7A football, led Walton to the title game. You want to know what his stats were? And he went 50 touchdowns, 6 interceptions in high school.
Are you talking about Lipscomb Academy, potentially?
Yes, Lipscomb Academy. Is it Nashville? Maybe it's
Yep, it
Nashville.
is.
Okay.
They got a ton of, like, really good private school programs in football up there. So, like, there's, 4 or 5 of them that are really good.
Yeah, you got a tall, lanky private school kid against just this 5'11", just baller. So I think it's very exciting to see what they do. I think Jeremy Helinski's going to win the job. I think he fits in the offense better. Dude's a baller. He's a winner. He's a gamer. I think he's going to take over the team, that room, and I think he does a heck of a job. But that's really all I have for Iowa.
Let's lightly touch upon, like, Illinois, Minnesota, and Nebraska. I kind of have those 3 teams in a similar tier. I think you have Illinois in the tier above, in that, like, Washington, Iowa tier. Illinois last year, obviously led by Luke Altmaier. Brett Bielema is in his 6th year at the helm with Illinois. Illinois, again, you know what you're going to get. They can be frisky. They get really good quarterback play. They get the best out of their quarterbacks as well. They're bringing over Caden Hauser from East Carolina. Last year, or the last season, he had a 65% completion percentage for 3,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, also rushed for 181 and 9 touchdowns. Very much a gunslinger. They bring back running backs as well in Caden Fagan. No. Illinois returns. Caden Fagan switched to tight end, Defense, you know what you're going to get. They bring in a new defensive coordinator in Bobby Hauck, who replaces Aaron Henry, who went to Notre Dame. Hauck used to be the former head coach of the Montana Bobcats. Nope, Grizzlies. I always get them mixed up. Montana Grizzlies. You know what you're going to get, man. They're going to be a good defense. They're going to be a good offense. They're going to make a decent amount of mistakes. They're going to probably steal a couple games, right? So I'm looking at this schedule. They got UAB, Duke, Southern Illinois, Ohio State, Purdue, at Michigan State, Oregon, at Maryland, Nebraska, at UCLA, Iowa, at Northwestern. Again, you know, they could probably beat Duke, so that'd be a good win for the program. But you steal one against UCLA, maybe. Maybe you steal one against Iowa. Like, they are what they are, very similar to Iowa. But I just think Illinois, you're probably looking at 4 losses in conference again. I think you just know what you're going to get from the Illini. Bielema's job is safe as safe can be. Like, if you go 5-4 and you get 8 wins, then you get a 9th one in a bowl game because he took down Tennessee last year. Like, I'd keep that dude every day of the week if I'm Illinois. But Illinois, sick uniforms too at times. Like when they do the throwback helmets, the little cursive stuff. I love that combo in college football 27. But go ahead if you got anything on the Illini, the Fighting Illini of Illinois.
Yeah, I think I have them overall 6-6 with 4-5 record in conference. I am not high on them. Losses to Duke, Ohio State, Oregon, UCLA, and either Nebraska or Iowa. But Caden Hauser, he's an ECU quarterback. He's good. He's not great. I think when I went to go watch his tape, I saw that ECU just had 2 amazing wide receivers last year. I mean, they were always open. They had 3 running backs that are like just really good. The offensive coordinator over at ECU, JDB, he was just cooking. And you know he's the man because he's now the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss. So I think all that makes you look better than you are. Almost kind of like the Aaron Nolan kind of trick whenever you saw him in high school. I think that's what we're seeing it. Hauser can sling it. He's going to find the open guys. He's trustworthy. He's a St. John's product, which just tells me he's rich. But other than that, does he belong in the Power 4 level? We'll see. I think he was originally a Michigan State commit, if I'm not mistaken. Couldn't play. That's why he went to ECU. Does he belong in the Power Four? We'll find out. Fifth year and offensive coordinator Barrett Looney is going to be in there. Obviously, we saw with Luke Altmaier, this guy has a system that works. So we'll see how Caden Hauser does. But no one in the quarterback room behind him excite me. All three of them, kind of out of high schoolish, they all suck. I mean, it's not good. If Hauser goes down, their season's in the toilet.
I just watched. I'm watching kind of like an Oregon 1 hour clip from their seasons last year. I just watched Dante Moore throw the most perfect ball over the DB's shoulder right into the breadbasket of his receiver, leading them down to win the game against Iowa. And I was like, dang, that was a good ball, man. That was a good ball.
Dante throws a pretty deep ball, man. That's one thing was watching film last night. I was telling you, he throws a pretty deep ball.
All right, going to Minnesota, a guy, again, whose job's really not in jeopardy. PJ Fleck of the Minnesota Golden Gophers, 66-44 going into year 10. Greg Harbaugh is the OC. Defensive coordinator is Danny Collins.
Junior.
Danny Collins Jr. Running back Darius Taylor probably has a good chance to make some noise. He had 900 yards last year. Said, quote, not quote, but in this magazine, Taylor worked with a chef and Pilates class in effort to ward off hamstring injuries. Pilates taking this man to maybe over 1,000 yards this year. There's been a lot of talk, good and maybe bad, about Drake Lindsey. I'm starting to see the Drake Lindsey hype train slowly creep out of the station a little bit. He's kind of this sexy, EBK, this guy, look, I'm going to call this guy, he's going to be super good. They were abysmal in the passing game and they were abysmal offensively. 100th in passing, 126th in rushing. But Darius Taylor was one of the highlights of that. Drake Lindsey is projected to take a really big step forward this upcoming year. Last year, he had 2,300 yards, 18 touchdowns with only 6 picks. In the final 5 games, his touchdown to interception ratio was 8-0. So he really cleaned it up towards the latter part of the year. We kind of know what you're going to get with Minnesota. I don't want to say they can muck it up, but they're going to have a decent defense. PJ Fleck's going to have the boys ready to row the boat. Ski Uma, and you know what you're going to get out of Minnesota every single year. Perfectly average, perfectly mediocre, but if there is one bright spot, I think that it could be Drake Lindsey if he takes the next step forward, which a lot of people seemingly in the media feel like he's going to take.
Yeah, PJ Fleck, known goods. I mean, won a lot at Western Michigan, tried to keep a lot of guys in this area, has done a phenomenal job for years. Offensive coordinator, and that's who I was referring to as the junior, is Greg Harbaugh Jr., no relation to Jim or John. He is now the offensive coordinator, former wide receivers coach, which tells me anything. He's going to want to sling that thing. This is Minnesota. You got to find an identity. When you have Minnesota throwing way more than rushing, we have a problem. And my keynote is please do not rely on Drake Lindsey. Some people are very high on him. I am not. I'm probably closer to the extreme on the other way. And here's how I see it. If I throw for 400 attempts and only have 2,300 passing yards, you should be at 3K. Why are you so far behind with so many attempts? This is the conversion rate on that just doesn't math. It doesn't do the mathing for me. Now, looking at it,
he struggled incredibly in the beginning part of the year. Last couple games 8-0, but you get at that point you're not playing for much for some of those teams. I'm going to let you get away with a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, and it didn't look good at all. The running back room, obviously, now last year we saw their big guys are injury prone. So having this year, hopefully they are doing something different, like you touched upon, because they need to stay healthy. And that's a key piece in why I think they had to throw so much more. But I don't think you needed to throw the ball that much more to keep your running backs not hurt. I think it hurt the O-line more than anything. You've got a lot of zone blocking guys. Let them put their hand in the ground and just go to work. let him go, bro. Like it lacks an offensive identity. I'm just not a believer in the offensive coordinator. I think he's going to hurt the team more than help. I think you see huge regressions in Drake Lindsay because of it. I have Minnesota going 3-9, 1-8 in conference. So I have them only beating Eastern Illinois, Akron, and it's either Purdue at Purdue or Northwestern at home.
Yeah, I'm looking at my predictions and looking at some of the scheduling. I think I may have to shift like Northwestern up a little bit. I think I have them potentially too low right now. I think I need to swap maybe a couple teams here. But let's jump to Nebraska and then wrap it up here. Maybe we'll touch on UCLA just very briefly after Nebraska here. But Nebraska, big news is Dylan Raiola left. You bring in Anthony Colandrea. You're kind of high on Colandrea. I'm like, there's a reason why you went back down to the mid-major. There's a reason why you thrive there. That's probably like where your skill set should remain. But again, if someone's going to cut you a check because you did good for a year, take the bag. All right, I ain't going to argue with anyone trying to go get their bag. They went and got Geep Wade, offensive line coach from Georgia Tech. He's a big piece of why that Georgia Tech O-line became who they were. They fired Donovan Raiola, Dylan's uncle, and replaced him there. Wide receivers, not anything crazy. They bring back Barney and Hunter. The big thing is you got to replace Emmett Johnson, who was a really big part of your offense last year at the running back position. The secondary should be fine. The defensive line last year got bully-balled, gave up a ton of rushing. I'm looking at the schedule. You got 3 losses off rip, probably 4, maybe 5. We could find a 6. Matt Rule, you're on the block again, because year 3 Matt Rule didn't do anything. I really do have a question about Nebraska. Nebraska has been heralded as this like perennial, these guys should be at the top every year. You know what I'm not at the top every year. No one's like saying they're like the number 1 team in the country, but like when they go and get Matt Rule, the expectation for Matt Rule is this like super like back towards the top of the Big Ten, or at least be relevant in the top 25. And I just don't ever feel like, and it was before Matt Rule, it was the Scott Frost era, it was all these different things too, when it just feels like, why can't Nebraska like figure it out? They have the money, they have the resources, they have the fan base, they have the history, and yet Nebraska is just like the epitome of mediocrity in when they dominated the 90s. And like, you bring in these high-profile coaches, and you got to make the right hire, and then you're redoing this, like you're doing all this stuff, and you have the money, and yet Matt Rule is 19-19. Dylan Raiola didn't develop. Now he leaves. Now you bring in Colandrea. Defense should take a step forward, but then you get ran all over. I don't really know what to think of Nebraska. I have them perfectly in the middle. I have them, I think, 13th in the conference, right behind Wisconsin. I actually have Minnesota being a little bit better than anticipated, but I think I may have to adjust that based on what we just discussed. Yeah, man. Nebraska.
Yeah, I think the new defensive coordinator coming over from San Diego State, add the transfers. I expect new results. I expect better results coming from the defensive side. Colandrea was a beast at Virginia. Let's not forget that. His first year, he was a dude. He then transfers out, wanting to get a bag, trying to put up, stat pads. Remember, I talked to his mom. He's wanting to put up numbers, stats, put him in the best position for it. Gets together with, honestly, what's funny enough is Kirk Cignetti reached out to him and tried to get him to come over to Indiana before Fernando Mendoza did. And Colandrea wanted to go with Dan Mullen. He thought that air raid offense would suit him better than the RPO offense. So that's why he went over with Dan Mullen. Ended up losing the job to Alex Orji originally, but then I think Orji got hurt or did not play well. Calandra came in and put up numbers. Now he is in Nebraska, and he is a Power 4 quarterback. He comes out of St. Pete, Florida, which is just south of Tampa here. I'm super high on him. I think he's very talented. He is going to bring life to Nebraska that just wasn't there. He can make plays not only with his arm, but with his legs. He's going to extend drives. He's going to keep the chains moving. And, with the influx of the quarterback position, not saying it's an upgrade, but I would knock it as entirely as a downgrade. I think the running back needs someone to step up, especially with, obviously they're the leading rusher being gone this year. Somebody has to take over the room. It's wide open. Like we just talked about Iowa's quarterback room. That's how this running back room is. You freshmen coming on campus, line them up. Let's go. I am high on Nebraska. I have them going 4-5 in conference, which doesn't sound great, but most people have them lower. And then I have them going 7-5 overall. I have them beating I have them beating Ohio, Bowling Green, and North Dakota to start the season.
Last little bit I want to talk about is Wisconsin, UCLA. Not fully in depth, more just on their quarterbacks. Obviously, Nico Imalabale is in his junior year. We're going to see what type of bounce he takes. Is Bob Chesney's second year at the helm. No, first season at the helm, excuse me. Bob Chesney coming from JMU, leading JMU to a CFP. I think it's a great move for UCLA. I think they're going to have growing pains in year one, but Chesney's going to get it right going into the next several years. Wisconsin, I'm super high on the Badgers, man. Like, I think they're going to be way better than they were last year. Colton Joseph is like, if there's a guy I'm probably going to hang my hat on as like a dude you need to watch for, it is Colton Joseph. I thought that was the best quarterback they've gotten at Wisconsin in God knows how long. Since, what was his name? Van Dyke?
I was just about to say Van Dyke would probably be the last good one. If you hate Tyler Van Dyke, then it would be Russell Wilson.
Graham Mertz for maybe a year, like I don't know.
Yeah,
but I think, but Colton Joseph has the incredible rushing upside, has a pretty electric arm. I think he needs to rein it in with the Big Ten defenses. The schedule doesn't do you any favors, of course, but you still have enough growth in terms of like Rutgers, Maryland, Purdue. You can go battle with Minnesota. You can go toe-to-toe with Iowa and Penn State potentially. That's what I think Colton Joseph can do for them. And the bottom of this conference, man, it's rough, right? Northwestern is being projected to do a little bit better with Aiden Childs. First year, right? Second year with Childs or first year with Childs?
First year with Childs, but I wouldn't trust Childs if my life depended on it.
Chip Kelly's the OC. New stadium. I just don't see that working out that well for Northwestern. They're more ranked in the back half. Michigan State is Michigan State. I'm actually a little bit higher on Maryland than I think most people are. I'm a huge fan of Malik Washington. Shout out our boy Dom. But, I think Malik Washington's a really good quarterback. Maryland last year had a couple games where you're watching the game going, man, I'm looking right here. They lost to Washington by 4. They gave up a late touchdown. They lost to Nebraska by 3. They lost to UCLA by 3. And then they get smoked the rest of the way. But they were right there in 2 or 3 games where, they win those games. You're not looking at a 4-8 Maryland team. You're looking at, 7-5, and they're going bowling. So I think Malik Washington and Maryland has a chance to be good, and Rutgers and Purdue don't bother watching unless you're fans of them. Antoine Raymond, though, should be a great running back. And KJ Duff, historic wide receiver for Rutgers, because they don't have wide receivers historically. But yeah, if you use Rutgers in your CFP rebuild, they're a fun team to rebuild. So, yeah, Purdue, Rutgers, they exist. Hunter, any final thoughts on the Big Ten?
Yeah, I can rush through this real quick. UCLA, I think, is the biggest sleeping giant. Having everyone from JMU come over, giving Nico stability and coaching is really exciting. Also, the transfer from Utah, Thompson, all Big 12 caliber guy for their secondary is huge. Wisconsin, easier schedule this year. Hell yeah. That's progress. Instead of putting money in your facilities, you can now put it in your roster. Now you got defense and Colton Joseph. Colton Joseph, if you don't know who he is, great value money Manziel. Rutgers returns 5 starters. Defense was bad last year. Worry considering the schemes need a little bit more contingency. New defensive coordinator to rebuild that side of the ball. Exciting quarterback. O-line would be the strength of the team, and KJ Duff is a wide receiver to look for. Purdue won 2 games, one more than last year. Congrats, your team still sucks. It's a team full of transfers that couldn't play at previous schools, decent talent and coaching, but this team is ass. Please do not watch. It's a lot on Maryland. I'm gonna skip Maryland. I'm skipping that part. Clint Trickett, son of a ball coach. His brothers are all coordinators or NFL scouts. This dude is coming from Jackson State, who led the world in rushing. I think you'll see definitely an improvement, and this will be more of a run-first team. Malik Washington, 6'5". I mean, the true freshman starter, has played well. He's going to grow and get better. I got to believe he's going to move and get paid a lot of money next year. He's going to be a very wealthy man. And then Cardell Williams, he's the backup. He's a Tulsa transfer. He played well until a coaching change, went somewhere else, beat Rashada, started 10 games, but not a Power 4 caliber. If you see him in the game, please bet the other team. Michigan State, Pat Fitzgerald, we obviously know the scandal. He is probably one of the greatest college linebackers of all time. Head coach for about 20 years. Hazing scandal cost him the job. He sued, won. That's why he's back into coaching. Unfortunately, he made an awful decision going with the offensive coordinator of Nick Sherda. He was a co-coordinator from Alabama last year. If we know anything about Alabama last year, their offense was atrocious. When it came with Kalen DeBoer, when his OC didn't come over with him, he hired from within. He is not good. He was the OC at Indiana during COVID when they were hot ass. Honestly, he's just getting the hookup. I expect the offense to be a mess. I actually really like the quarterback for them, Milivojevic, 6'3", number 1 quarterback coming out of Illinois, the state of Illinois in 2024. He could sling it a bit, but can't run a lick. That's a statue out there. But unfortunately, he's just lost his best receiver with Nick Marsh. He's pretty good, but with offensive coordinator and running back getting worse, I don't imagine them getting any better. Jacob, final thoughts.
That is the Big Ten. Obviously, shout out to Kara for jumping on, talking about LeBron. What would we do without LeBron? What does this all mean for LeBron's legacy is the question we should be asking. Green Dog Podcast, we got a lot of exciting stuff. Again, I've alluded to it before when we are in season. 2 episodes a week, big venture for both of us. Hopefully that eliminates 2-hour-long episodes to recap everything and talk about previews. We'll give you 2 episodes a week, Mondays and Fridays, starting in week 1. Maybe not week 0. Week 1. Week 1, that's when we'll do it. We got a newsletter coming, so if you like listening to the pod and you're like, you know what, Jacob, I see this is 2 hours. I don't want to listen. Subscribe to the newsletter. Also give us a listen. Help the numbies. But the newsletter, easy digest, should take you 3-5 minutes to read. We have the same stuff, links to everything. Follow us, like, comment, share, subscribe. We appreciate you listening. He's been your mom's favorite Little Leaguer, the GDP guru, Hunter Malone. Been your host, Jacob Prale. Catch you on the flip.